The two anointed ones you seek are among you, from the house of Dawi and from the house of Zadok. I understand that some of you may be confused when I say the house of Dawi. You may be thinking Jesus Christ or Yahweh Shai or Yeshua. No, that's not who I'm talking about. Some of you may be confused when I say the house of Zadok. You probably don't even know who Zadok is, which that is okay. That's why these type of videos are being made. This one in particular. The house of Zadok is a descendant of the high priest line of Levi or Levi. So when I say the two anointed ones, who are in captivity, and Ahiah will raise them up from captivity, I'm talking about these two branches right here, which represents the tree of life. The tree of life is Ahiah. The full tree is Ahiah. And from his tree, you have branches, You have the branch, which is the Messiah King David's line. Then you have another branch, which is the Messiah High Priest line of Zadok. And these two bloodlines, they reside in captivity, in these Americas, living among you, going through the afflictions and pain and suffering and cruel treatment and mishaps and misfortunes, the same as the whole nation of Yasharallah. Now, I do this video so my people can truly understand the importance of leaving idolatry, leaving the New Testament, leaving the ways of the oppressor, the taskmaster, the slave master, trying to understand the order and the way of a higher Allah. That means a higher power. Now, when you read Zechariah chapter 4, verse 11, it gives you some form of order how Ahiah's branches are ran. And these two entities, the Messiah Dawi and the Messiah Zadok, are mentioned. The order is in place. So when you read, then I asked the angel who asked Zechariah. Then I asked the angel, what are these two olive trees, on each side of the lampstand? Zechariah 4:12. And what are the two olive branches that pour out golden oil through two gold tubes? Verse 13. Then the angel responds like, don't you know? He asks, and then Zechariah says, no, my Adonai, or you may say my Lord, or what's the other word? Adonai? I don't know. I haven't said it in so long. I'm so used to, Adonai. But then he says in verse 14, then he said to me, they represent the two anointed ones who stand in the court of Ahiah of all the earth. So this is what these branches represent. These two bloodlines, the house of Dawi and the house of Zadok. And they stand in the court of Ahiah before all of the earth. For the Messiah Dawi's bloodline, is the governor, prince of the nation, you know, and the Messiah, Zadok's bloodline, is the high priest who does the offering and sacrifices unto Ahia and also ministers to the people, you know. He speaks the law unto the people. So much, hype and energy is only around the Messiah Dawid's bloodline. So that's why so many people just praises Yeshua, Jesus, Yahushua, and give no, you know, just no consideration to the house of Zadok and the covenant made with him. I guess mainly due to the most of you guys don't know the covenant that was made with Zadok. Once you do this, once you Google all verses pertaining to Zadok, and so much is going to come up, and just take your time and just Google it, and then you're going to get to the meat and potatoes of things. You'll see the covenants and promises that was made to him as well. And then when you do that, then you will see the importance of this bloodline. Now, when we go to Jeremiah chapter 33, and we start at verse 14 all the way through 26, Ahia is going to speak about this forever covenant that's made with these two bloodlines, the house of Dawi and the house of Zadok. And I need you guys to understand, I am not talking about no idol of the New Testament, no deity of the New Testament, no Jesus, no Yahushua, no Yeshua. No. I'm not combining them two and making Jesus, Yahushua, Yeshua, the king and the high priest. I'm not combining none of that and saying that. I am giving credits to the house of Dawi, one of his descendants, in the house of Zadok, one of his descendants. So you may understand that these descendants are among you here where you reside in captivity. I want you to understand that. So when you go to Hosea chapter 3 verse 5, and you read pretty much 4 through 5, and it says, once you start seeking and return unto Ahia, then you're going to seek out David, your king, not David himself, because it's the same thing, same storyline plot with the Jesus dude, or Yeshua, or Yahushua, whatever you want to call him. It's the same story plot. If Jesus and Yahushua cannot come back from the dead, that is your argument with the Christians. Don't be a hypocrite. King David cannot come back from the dead as well and sit on the throne. It does not matter how it's translated and you understand it as David because it says David or Dawi. It is pertaining to his descendant. Same as right here in Jeremiah 33, which tells you descendant. But other areas it may not say descendant. It would just refer to as the house of David, or it would just say David. Because Ahia is expecting you, those who's reading and those who's speaking and teaching, to understand that this is referred to a son of David or Dawi, not the actual Dawi. Because you're returning, or at least that few in number remnant may grasp it or accept it or consider it, so they won't be stuck in idolatry with the King David being the one coming back and Yahushua, Jesus, or Yeshua coming back, or combining the two and just not even considering the house of Zadok and his seed that's here, going through the same thing and going to be anointed, for he's already anointed. See, these two bloodlines is already anointed. So a lot of people try to go into the book and say, well then, where is the high priest at to anoint the seed of Dawi? you know. But Ahiah has already anointed these to himself. He already has anointed a certain descendant from captivity unto himself from the house of Dawi and from the house of Zadok. So the formality of going through the process of the high priest anointing the seed of Dawi does not have to take place here. That procedure can take place once Ahiah fully brings us all back, all who shall come back, makes known before the people who the true high priest is, then he will anoint, go through the procedure and anoint, pour the oil on his head before the people so they can know and have validation that this is truly the anointed Messiah King of the line of David. That would take place then. But in the eyes of Ahiah, not yours, these descendants are already anointed before him, just without the ritual, which will take place later. So, when you read this Jeremiah 33 verse 14, we're going to start right here. It says, "Behold, days are coming, declares Ahiah, when I will fulfill the good word which I have spoken concerning the house of Yasharallah and the house of Yehoiada. In those days and at that time, I will cause a righteous branch of Dawadah or Dawi to spring forth, and he shall execute justice and righteousness on the earth," or in the land, which it shall say. And then it says, verse 16, "In those days, Yehoiada will be saved, and Yerushalayim will dwell in safety." See that Yehoiada is the southern kingdom, and that Yerushalayim is Jerusalem, and that is the bloodline of Jerusalem, because the bloodline of Jerusalem is also in captivity with the southern kingdom, because the southern kingdom and the bloodline of Yerushalayim or Jerusalem, they are primarily over here. Now, if you don't know who the bloodline of Jerusalem is, then you may not understand the scripture. If you don't know how to put it in context when it's talking about the southern kingdom of Yehoiada, speaking about the whole southern kingdom, or when it's just talking about the single tribe, you have to read it in context, and that's very difficult if you may not understand. But here it's talking about the southern kingdom, bringing them back from captivity, and it's talking about the seed line, bloodline, descendants of the bloodline of Jerusalem. Now, which tribes and bloodlines make up Jerusalem? They are comprised of the seed of David, sons and daughters, and the seed of Zadok from the high priest line of Levi, sons and daughters, the seed of Benjamin, sons and daughters, the tribe and the seeds of Yehoiada or Judah, sons and daughters, and the seed of Levi, sons and daughters. They make up the bloodline of Yerushalayim or Jerusalem. So this is what it's talking about. These bloodlines and these tribes in this captivity. It's not talking about the whole nation of Yasharallah or Israel, but I say Yasharallah because I don't say is for Isis, and I don't say Ra for Amun-Ra, and I don't say El for Baal. I don't say that. No, there's no worship of the, Baal or Baal here, and there's no worship of Isis or Amun-Ra, none of that. So I say Yasharallah, the true name, which means upright power. And we are only upright and we are only powerful when Ahaya Allah is our power. Not Allah, Allah. That's just the Hebrew Phoenician or Hebrew Phoenician Hebrew or Paleo Hebrew. So you can just kind of check out that language and it'll make sense. And then you'll understand. But I'm pretty sure the majority of you who's listening, you pretty much understand. But that is the bloodline and the tribes and the seeds or descendants of Yerushalayim or Jerusalem. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to be very repetitive. The seed of David, sons and daughters. The seed of Zadok, sons and daughters. The seed of Levi, sons and daughters. And don't forget the seed of Zadok is from the high priest line of Levi, for his sons and daughters make up, Jerusalem. Then also the seed of Judah or Yahweh, sons and daughters, and the seed of Benjamin, sons and daughters, make up the whole bloodline or the whole entity of Jerusalem. That's the seed of Jerusalem. So that's what it's talking about here, right there in verse, is that 16? Yes, verse 16. Okay, like it says, and Yahweh will be saved, and Yerushalayim will dwell in safety. And this is the name by which she shall be called, this entity, this branch. Ahiah is our righteousness. So when the seed of David is put into place, then by, when Ahiah restores the kingdom of Davidah or Dawi or David back to this descendant, then peace will be on the earth, order will be on the earth, and Ahiah will be all of the nation of Yasharalah's righteousness, and also other nations who want to take place and serve Ahiah. So then we go to verse 17. For thus says Ahiah, Dawi or Dawadah shall never lack a man to sit on the throne of the house of Yasharallah. Then it says, verse 18, and the Levitical priests, which it should say, and my high priest Zadok shall never lack a man before me to offer burnt offerings to burn, grain offerings, and to prepare sacrifices continually. That's verse 18. It should say Zadok, because it's talking about the high priest here. See, this is what they did with their mistranslations when they start translating our book. But I kind of corrected it a little bit in a few verses down so you can get it and understand. Ahiah put it in my spirit to correct it. So I corrected it. Whenever he don't do that, I don't touch it, So let me see. Jeremiah 30, verse 19. Then it says, the word of Ahiah came to Jeremiah, saying, thus says Ahiah. Now this is key. If you can break my covenant for the day and my covenant for the night, so that the day and the night will not be at their appointed time, because day and night come at their appointed time, right? Then it says, then my covenant may also be broken with Dawi my servant, so that he will not have a son to reign on his throne, and with Zadok my high priest, my minister. So that right there should knock out the box all idolatry. You shouldn't even be about Yeshua, Yahweh Shai, or, you shouldn't even be about him at all. Yasha, you shouldn't be about him at all after reading that, because Ahiah says, if you can take away the day from coming and the night from coming, if you could take that away, then Ahiah has taken away the covenant he made with David, that he would never have a son, his descendants to sit on his throne. So that means it's never going to be one person. It's always going to be a chain of seeds of Davidah or David sitting on his throne. It's never going to be one person. and that goes with the seed of Zadok. It's never going to be one high priest to sit forever. So there's no way you can make Jesus Christ, Yahweh Shai, Yeshua, Yasha, to sit as king and high priest forever when Ahiah has a forever covenant made in, like made in a beautiful metaphor with the day and night that it's going to be forever, because it's always day and night always follow. So this covenant is forever. So this knocks it out the park that you should never combine the two when you're dealing with that false New Testament, thinking that that entity will reign as king and high priest forever, because that's contradictory to this covenant right here. Contradictory. Right, so that's verse 21. Then verse 22. As the host of heaven cannot be counted, and the sand of the sea cannot be measured, so I will multiply the descendants. See, I will multiply the descendants of Dawi, my servant, and Zadok, who ministered to me. So Ahiah said, you can't count the stars and you can't count the sand, the little particles. So you won't be able to count ever how many descendants of Dawidah will sit on the throne and descendants of Zadok will sit on the throne. So you can't make one out of this. You can't say David is coming back, because Ahiah spoke. Listen to Ahiah. He's spoken. There will be multiple. It's going to be plenty of descendants from these, royal, anointed Mashiach bloodlines of the house of Dawi and the house of Zadok. Messiah just means anointed. Mashiach just means anointed. Anointed of Ahiah to sit on these covenant thrones. So then we go to verse 23. And the word of Ahiah came to Jeremiah, saying, have you not observed what this people have spoken? You people, us, the house of Yasharal and other people, saying what? What are they saying? That the two families which Ahiah chose, which families is that? The family of the house of Judah, or Yehoiada, and the bloodline of David, Dawidah, or Dawi, and the house of Lewi, or the house of Levi, or Levite, or Lewites, from the bloodline of Zadok, the high priest, the families that he's chosen. And we are saying that this is no more because we made idols, we made idols our refuge. We made idols our glory, forgetting and not considering the way and the order of Ahiah. So Ahiah speaks to you. He speaks to you. He says, have you not observed what this people have spoken, saying the two families which Ahiah chose, he has rejected them? Thus they despise my people. No longer are they as a nation in their sight. Right? So Ahiah didn't reject these two bloodlines, the house of Dawi, the house of Zadok, So verse 25, Ahiah says, thus says Ahiah, if my covenant for the day and night stand not or does not come about, and the fixed patterns of heaven and earth I have not established. No, let me read that again. If my covenant for day and night stand not, and the fixed patterns of heaven and earth I have not established, then I would reject the descendants of Jacob, or Yasharallah, and Dawi, my servant, not taking them for his descendants, rulers over the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But I will restore their fortunes and will have mercy on them. And that's the mercy that Ahiah is going to give these two bloodlines and the whole nation of Yasharallah and the bloodline of Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, Zion, aka Zion, you know. Ahaya is going to have mercy because he's going to deliver them from captivity, set up the order, put in place the kingdom of Dawadah, and have one of his descendants sit on the throne, which comes from captivity with his people. Why did Ahaya send the house of Dawadah descendants and Zadok's descendants to captivity with his people of the bloodline of Yerushalayim, spread it throughout the four corners of the earth? Why did he send them over here? So the people could understand and resonate with this new king that comes from among them, and they won't be resentful towards him, and he won't be overly exalted over them or prideful and puffed up over them, looking down upon them, because he grew up in their nature. They grew up in the same environment, under the same procedures, situations and circumstances, pains and afflictions. See, we so quick to honor those who are above and beyond us, doing greater than us, that we look down upon those who's in eye level and ground level among us. We always want to praise somebody who we think is greater and better than us, rather than honor someone who has truly risen from us. You know, because our nature really is, when someone comes from our ground level and then makes it in the plateau of this so-called society, we eventually starts to hate them and hate upon them and then dislike them, and then somebody eventually kills them, or, well, we know who sends the hit out, the Amalekite Edomites, but this ain't about that. This video ain't about that, but we tend to hate on those who come from our ground level. But in this instant, when Ahaya does this righteous thing, and you find out that, dang, my prince or my king was among me, or my high priest was among me, and we was treating them like that, we was looking at them like that, then you're going to be real humble. First, you're going to be humbled by Ahaya when he comes back and anoint himself before the whole world. So Ahaya can't do things until he anoint himself, because he got to let the whole world know that he's the capital king of everything. Then Ahaya is going to set in place, his two entities, House of Dawiah and the House of Zadok. You know what I'm saying? Once all that take place. So, if you sort of kind of understand what I've been talking about in this video, I want to further along say this. There will be many of those saying that they are the Messiah, prince from the bloodline of David or Davidah. Many would say they are the Messiah, Zadok, anointed ones, right? From the bloodline of Zadok, the high priest. Many would say that. But they have a description. And that description is to be contrite, meaning apologetic, meek, and they wait for Ahaya, and they are up under extreme afflictions, cruelty, depression, and they have like great chastisement upon them. They not prideful and puffed up. They not out here doing things out of the order of Ahaya. They out here sinning. They commit iniquity, because we got to go into other scriptures to where it give brief descriptions of, for they just like you. They among you, going through the same stuff. They may spill their seed, masturbate. They may, be angry, and they may become prideful at times, but they will eventually become contrite, like shortly after. be apologetic and feel bad about things they do, not puffed up and arrogant. They will be meek. They are going through what you're going through, which is the furnace of affliction, being refined into fine gold and silver or bronze. When gold, silver, and bronze is being refined, it's up under hot heat, and the metal is melting, and the dross, the filthiness from the metal, is being purified away, turning the gold, the silver, or the bronze into value. So that is what's happening to the remnant of Yasharallah and the remnant of Yerushalayim, the bloodline of Jerusalem, and that is what's happening to the Messiah line of King Dawidah and the Messiah line of the high priest of Zadok. These descendants are being refined. So if one cup is already full and he's prideful and he's sure of himself, if they are telling you to leave your captivity and go somewhere else or come here, then that's not the way of these two entities, these two messiahs. They're not speaking like that. They're waiting for a higher, like all of Yasharallah. They're not jumping the gun. And most importantly, they are not greatly esteemed men. So you may have a lot of people raising up, but they are esteemed and likable people, and they carry this self importance, or they carry this what's the word, self entitlement about themselves, speaking things out of order. I would say myself, I've spoken to many false Messiah Dawis who have changed their bloodline from a Lewi or a Levite to the bloodline of Dawidah. Changed their tribe. I've spoken to many who say that they are this Messiah Dawi descendant, Messiah Zadok descendant. But one thing I could tell you is that they're very prosperous, very prideful, arrogant, and most importantly, they speak the idol name of Yah. Say YHWH, or say Yahweh, Yah, or Yahuwah, Yahweh. They don't call upon the name of Ahaya, Asha, Ahaya. Key signs. And they're not meek and they're not humble. And they are being esteemed. And they are very prosperous. These two entities are not that. They struggling. They going through it just like you. They being refined. They being tested. Things are taken away from them just like you. Family, jobs, food. In dire situations, unfortunate, being ridiculed, being mocked, being belittled, being talked about, going through the pains you're going through, wives cheating on them, and kids being taken away from them, and everything just being snatched from them, and asking questions like why, and may speak things against the Creator, but eventually they will turn back like the true remnant. They will bethink themselves and repent and be contrite and turn to a higher and know that He's your Allah. Ah meaning singular in the Phoenician Paleo Hebrew, singular person. That's why it's Allah, single power. That's what it means, Allah, single power. That's why it's Ahaya, single person, Haya, to be, to exist, Ahaya. That's why his name is Ahaya, because he's a singular deity, and he's letting you know right there. But these entities are seeking just the way you are seeking. But I just trying to get you guys to understand that the Messiah David that you're looking for, that you will seek, he's among you, talking to you, pleading with you, speaking things that you may go against, And you may be at judgment towards him. Same as the Messiah Zadok, the descendant. He's among you, living, working, breathing among you, speaking, probably not speaking, going through the same things, worries and tribulations you're going through. But just turn from the New Testament and turn from all idolatry and wait on the higher to anoint himself and bring down these nations like he said he would do in Daniel chapter 2. You know, because we living in the feet and toes. We're not living in the book of Revelations. We're living in the feet and toes right now. We're living in a time where the nations are drunk, you know, drunk off of wickedness, drunk off of power, drunk off of lust, you know, just drunk. You know, drunkenness has a lot to it. And they're not able to think or see clearly or walk upright. They're crumbling before you. We're living in that time. That's in the book of Isaiah. It talks about that. So look that up too. You know, we're living in that time. The full of the dominion of the Amalekite Edomite. The bankers, the Rothschilds, the Shibs, the Bilderbergers, the so-called Jews, the robbers of our Yasharala nation. For we are the true Yasharalites. We're living in that time. We're living in a time to where people are trying to live the modern way, you know, and forget the traditional. So people are turning and conforming to the modern way because how things are not changing from the COVID era, which is the true New World Order, and they don't know how to adapt and adjust, and they are losing their faith and going against the traditional ones, which is the remnant, which is the true house of Yasharala, who is seeking, and their hope is a higher only. You know, we living in them times. So we just gotta endure. Just endure. And every day propose a guilt offering unto a higher. I'm talking to the house of Zadok, the house of Dawodah. I'm talking to the house of Yarashalom. And I'm talking to the house of Zion. I'm talking to the whole nation. We need to fulfill Isaiah 53:10 and present a guilt offering before Ahia. I know you may be thinking there's no temple and y'all don't know exactly who this high priest is. I do. But I know you're thinking that, well, we don't have no temple, so how are we going to present a guilt offering? Just the way Ahia has spoken. What did he say? Listen to the instructions of the book of Hosea, chapter 14, verses 1 and 2. It says that you shall use your prayers and you shall offer them as the calves of your lips, meaning the sacrifices and offerings of your lips. Your prayers shall be your offering. And that also correlates and goes with Leviticus chapter 26, starting at verse 40. Like Ahia says, if they confess of their iniquity in the land of their captivity, then I will hear them and heal their land and bring them back. That's the guilt offering. So every day, present that guilt offering and say, I confess that I've been in idolatry, that I've committed this iniquity, that I've turned from you, I lost hope, I shame myself before you. All the things you could think of, your descendants, your forefathers, forechildren and foremothers, family and friends, people around about, ask Ahia for forgiveness of all of this so he can turn this whole thing around. And he's seeking that from the whole nation of Yasharala and these two entities. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this video up. It's getting late. I'm getting kind of tired, but I had to speak on it. All praise be to, Ahaya. So, Brukata Ahaya. And I like to say Ahaya Rafa. I'm gonna speak the little modern day Hebrew Ahaya Rafa, and I'm gonna speak some of the Paleo Ahaya Rafa Ahaya Ga'a, unto the whole nation of Yasharala. And that's ask Ahaya to heal and be our medicine, that he can deliver us from our afflictions and plagues and pains and suffering. And Burukatah be unto you, Ahaya. Bless you will be unto you, Ahaya. And may you, Ahaya, Salakya, all our iniquity, Ahaya, may you forgive all our iniquity, and iniquity of our forefathers, foremothers, forechildren, and iniquity of ourselves, our friends, family, environment, situations, all of it, Ahaya. Burukatah be unto you, for you is our true Malak, our true King. Much love, my people. Continue to call upon Ahaya. Shalom.